Hey friends, I am here with this nice electric blanket that I love so much, and I just wanted to um, share my thoughts on letting a man take care of me financially and what that means to me as a differently abled person. There is a lot of so many perspectives that are based on trauma that surround that whole topic. And I just wanted to share from my very clear cut, non encompassing of all the traumatized perspectives. I just want to share from my own clear cut perspective what this means for me. Um, I was raised, you could say neglected, very chaotic. And I was raised to basically be a housewife and a mom. I wasn't encouraged to get a career, to think about my strengths and skills. I wasn't encouraged to think positively of myself. Lots of people are in that position, whatever their gender. And um, those circumstances and because I had a lot of circumstances that led me to internalize negative things about myself growing up, especially in religious atmospheres, just with, being surrounded by exhausted, upset people who communicated violently. I really internalized a lot of negative self-worth to myself, so that made it even harder for me to try to make my way in the world. But I did want to make my way in the world and adventure and try to enjoy life when I was younger. So I was homeless. I did work exchanges on farms, traveling around. I was working full-time jobs while living in my car, or while living in the crawl spaces of houses for sale, like in garages of houses for sale, or like sheds, things like that. I There were times that I lived with some relatives. There were some times that I would go to mental health centers, or addiction treatment centers. There's times I lived with boyfriends while I was working jobs or not working jobs. And I just want to I think that there is a lot of pressure that it can seem like, I know that I think it helps to take gender out of it, right? Because it takes away the skew of trauma and fear. But whoever the person is, whether it's a parent, whether it is a facility, you know, like a mental health place or a treatment center or whatever, whether it is a boyfriend or a husband or a girlfriend or a wife, whatever it is, we can all find ourselves in positions where power over us is abused, right? And even when we have so-called independence by working at jobs, the job can feel like an abusive relationship in and of itself, that we feel afraid to leave because we need money. And we feel like we have to stay there. So I'm just saying there are so many situations in which having any kind of dimension of power over us, it can lead to a lot of fear and pain and trauma. And of course, proportionally, it's probably, I don't even know. I was gonna say it's worse for women proportionally. I also think of all the horrible workplaces in which men might have independence, but they are just so cut off from their souls, and they are and it leads to a lot of violent tendencies emerging because they just don't have the ability. They were never taught the words to use to describe their emotions and have narratives to illustrate what they're thinking and feeling. So it turns them into villains in response because they just feel like aggression, I like violence, like I need to protect myself somehow, but they don't even understand the what, when, and how. So that in and of itself is a form of torture, even if they're not like consciously aware of it, you know. But with women, and in, you know, not, you know, I know that's a great generalization, but I think that it is really really difficult that women are more likely to be at the hands of other people with less decision making power, you would think. There's like all these stereotypes and narratives of the just the housewives kind of thing. And that is okay, so I'm forgetting what I like what is the whole framework of what I'm trying to talk about. I think it'd be a lot easier if I was talking with somebody rather than just trying to go, or if I was writing or something. But basically I have, like, for me in my life right now, for the past couple of years, I'm getting by because of my boyfriend, and he is the first really healthy relationship I've had in my life, regardless of gender, regardless of like what the relationship was to me, because the mutuality of it is so medicinal. The um knowing his thoughts and feelings, and the care and the protection, and I'm so grateful, and I also want to return that to him one day. I want to show that everything that he is devoting into me, like that, like allowing me to live with him, that one day I can find a way to earn money so that I can also, like, using this time well, or using this time so that one day in the future, like, I can be financially stable and I can provide him the time and energy to, whether he gets sick or he is, has a season of disability or whatever in his life, where he had like burnout, like he has to reevaluate things in his life, get to know himself better, figure out a more sustainable path forward. Um, I'm like, okay, he's a bit younger than me. He's like 5 years, 4 years younger than me. So I think he just hasn't hit that burnout point yet, but like it's coming. And I'm trying to be like, okay, I need to be prepared. So when he hits that point, like I'm here to catch him also. And, um, so I guess all this is the main point I'm trying to say is that I think it is really, I just wish that more women gave themselves permission and could find safe relationships in which they allow someone to take care of them, but only a healthy person. And a part of being with a healthy person is you have to test them. You have to give yourself permission to be messy, to be awkward, to be imperfect, and you have to test to see, like, how are they when they are under not to be abusive, but like how are they when they actually see your real thoughts, feelings, and emotions? Like, um can they respond with like if you say like you're unhappy, like can they not take it on as their responsibility, where they feel so much pressure, and you can have more ongoing conversations, and where they don't use like shame, um violence, pressure, punishment, terror against themselves or you in order to solve your mutual problems. Like, are they kind to their own selves? Like, all these dimensions, like, it has to be involved, it has to be there in order for it to be safe for you to allow anybody to take care of you. And you have to be accepting and real with yourself for your disabilities and for your limitations. And I think you have to be with somebody who really advocates for you to see the best in you, who actually does see the best in you and is able to communicate that verbally so that you don't, give up. Like somebody who can be your best supporter, and that can inspire love and care, not out of a sense of obligation, not a sense of performing like a housewife role, but out of a sense of like, oh, I want to nurture this person who is nurturing me, you know? Like I'm talking about whatever it might be. For me, it's like cleaning, cooking, making a home nice and comfortable, like going on activities with my boyfriend so that we can enjoy life together more, like encouraging the best in him, like getting to know his desires, his skills, um his goals for the future, and really encouraging him to keep on exploring his own self and to go after um his health, and to not just like be okay just like sitting watching TV day by day forever. And yeah, I think it's really beautiful when you're in a mutual relationship where you can both advocate for the balance and yourselves in each other, that yes, you have like the downtime, the rest, but you also have like together as a team, you do things that help push you both forward. Like my boyfriend and I go to the gym together, and it can be really encouraging for both of us. Like if one of us doesn't want to, and or like we go on walks around here where I live, just to make sure like we are at least exercising the muscles of like trying to be like, how do we be out in the world and feel safe? How do we just try to live less of like a terrified, like protective, like wall kind of life, and open up a little bit more? How do we feel more safe as ourselves no matter where we are, and make sure we're making decisions not based on terror of other people or the outside world, but making decisions more so based on what we actually want to do and what sounds nice to us. And that sense of like selfishness, like how do we enjoy being alive? Like we deserve to enjoy being alive. And I think this type of partnership is extremely medicinal to me. It is so beautiful to me. And I think um I do focus so much on like how I'm trying to change and know myself independently also, that I think I just need to give a little bit more focus to recognizing like how like the relationships we have with our loved ones, like that is truly magical, and we can accomplish so much more than we can alone. But that doesn't mean that we have to we still have to navigate the interpersonal relationships, right? And making sure that we aren't sacrificing parts of ourselves, sacrificing our needs in order to have it be a safe relationship, or sorry, in order to get the support that we want. I mean, me and my boyfriend have been together for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and it is very much this sense of has not been ongoing in our relationship since we've known each other. For me, like this sense of like, am I sacrificing a truth because I think that that's what I need to do in order to get him to allow me to live with him, basically? Allow me to cook for him, allow me to be in his life, like. And I think it's really necessary that we acknowledge just how much value we do provide as companions. And this can be said to a man, a woman, anything, and it can be related to like non like inter non romantic relationships, non typical partner relationships. It can be related to friendships. It can, like, everything needs to be seen as a mutual partnership, I think. Like, even when, like, I was at mental health centers and like the dual diagnosis addiction center, like living there, like they try, like, an abusive dynamic, no matter where you are at a workplace, wherever, like they want you to think that like you are just trash and you have to be grateful to them for everything and you can't have any desires of your own. Like, you should just be grateful for what you get, right? And that like you don't have anything of benefit to offer them. But like that wasn't true when I was at those centers in the past. I was offering them great support. For one, the support to even exist as a business, and you know, for two, I don't know, like I'm sure there are ways that I can't really recognize looking back, but ways that I like was supportive or helpful to people individually, even if it was just me being honest about my experiences and giving them an example to even like learn more about themselves or their views on the world or whatever. And I think the same kind of dynamic has to be seen, and especially for disabled people, where we are much more vulnerable than your average person. We have less accessibility to resources at this time of our lives. We're just more vulnerable. It's really necessary to remember, like, you all, like you have, like, it's a mutual benefit kind of thing. Like, be real about the support that you offer if it's in a relationship, that you offer your partner, and not devalue, because sometimes the value somebody gets, like, you would not imagine. Like, in the past, when I've tried to be in this dynamic, like allowing a man to take care of me, and it hasn't gone good. Like, before, like, it was amazing, like, how much support one of these people, how much support he felt in his life, just because it let him feel like a man, even though we weren't sexual, even though it was like, I don't know, it was almost like a lavender marriage kind of thing, but it gave him so much confidence and hope just to let other people see him in a different way, to let himself see himself in a different way. And um to he could imagine that people were thinking that he had a wife and he had all this, like, this traditional kind of life. Like, I'm just saying that there are these kind of things that you could say it relates to toxic stereotypes, or it just relates to people's innate sense of like their desires and like a magic that goes towards their hopes of who they could be in the world. I'm not saying that their hopes of who they could be in the world, that I personally like resonate with it or whatever, but just knowing from their own perspective, like, that is a real form of support for a lot of people. And so maybe if, I wish in the past that when I was in this toxic dynamic where I was letting a man that, like, we just disagreed on so much. He was not a safe person to confide in or be open with. I just wish that I had given myself the recognition that, like, I was helping him in massive ways, that I was being supportive of him. And because in me thinking that, I think that I would have saw myself differently. I would have seen myself as like, oh, like, I actually am doing something really worthy of the support I'm getting. So I don't need to feel guilty. I don't need to feel all this pressure on myself to feel or be anybody different. Like, um, I don't know. I'm not exactly able to put it all into words right now, but I just really wish that it can never hurt to think of the ways in which we are helping or adding valuable things to a situation. And yeah, I think that it's the pattern that I see with in my own life. It's like it's really hard to be in situations where we believe that what we have to offer is valuable, that we even have something valuable to offer, to know what it is valuable to offer, because for many reasons people can feel so afraid or so, I don't know, so like so afraid of investment in other people, I guess, or encouragement, like these narratives of power control, of like um of feeling like in order to compliment somebody, it means that we are obligated to think poorly of ourselves or to do whatever somebody wants because we have proven they have authority because we are complimenting. And it's like, no, it's on a case by case basis, right? But I think when we're in survival, we can kind of, a lot of people, me, us, we can just not celebrate the strengths in others as much, or not point out things we admire in people. I do this a lot too. Something I'm learning for myself also. Um, and it's more about like trying to prove like we have value too. And yes, that is important, but it's so important to also like just acknowledge where people, like, in order to actually form mutually invested bonds between people. I think it's really important to get to know people as individuals and to show that we see the positives in them. And I definitely didn't grow up in environments and haven't been in many environments in my life where like people were open with praise and support. And I know sometimes people can even interpret it as like sarcasm, um, or just like feeling afraid, like scrutinized, you know, in order to be supportive of people. But that's okay, because we can always go back to not judging ourselves, not villainizing our own intentions, and seeing the value in our own selves, and knowing that what we what we feel to do like is important. We just have to find the right people for that to happen with. And yeah, sometimes you can get really really blessed and find partnerships where you can have that sort of openness and mutual support and mutual, celebrating each other. Um, and for a lot of us who are disabled, or burnt out or whatever, like that is what we need in order to have a safe place of rest, um, have a basis from which we can, you know, give our bodies and our minds time and different stimulus to have a different conception of who we are and like what the plot is. So I guess I'm just thinking like, yeah, I am in this period of great confusion, messiness of my life still, but I'm grateful to be in this position. It is a privilege to be even in this position. And I just wish that more, I mean, I talk about women just because that's what I am. So that's what I tend to think of more, I guess. But I just wish more people, men or women, would allow others to take care of them and not see it as a failure, not have a shaming relationship to our own self to be like, oh, I'm a fucking weak piece of shit. Like, I have to have someone take care of me. I'm a like disabled. I'm never going to be able to do anything. I have no skills. I'm a waste of life. You know, all this stuff that is so like oppressive and evil, demonic, that is like put into our heads of what we should think and feel about ourselves. It's you know, it is like, yes, there are things we should be aware of to know that people aren't able to provide a safe way of taking care of us, you know? Like, some people aren't safe to trust for us to like just live with them, and they will use that above our heads to try to like force us, try to use shame, try to use pressure to get us to be different. I've done that to people in the past too. There was a boyfriend who I was living with years ago. This was like 10 years ago, right? He sold weed. That's how he made money. And I was working at a vet office. That's how I made money. And I was, you know, so angry. I had so little emotional, I don't know. I don't know the right words to use, but I didn't have the emotional capacity that I do now, or the compassion, the way to understand myself, the way to interpret my own emotions that I do now. But the knowledge of like, and he had done a lot of things to me, so I think I had like a lot of anger brewing anyways. Like, it wasn't just this circumstance. Like, you know, he had sexually assaulted me in the relationship. He had like been consistently like cruel and demeaning to me. So it was more than just this one situation, you know. But there's this point when he was um like for a while, like he was trying to have kind of this break to be at home, and I was really angry at him that like I was like, I'm going off at work, and like you just like sell weed and smoke weed in your home all day. And I did use all this shame against him because part of it, like I said, it was anger from other things, but I think at least a part of it was about this sense of like jealousy and envy of like, you're not supporting me, like I'm supporting you, but you're not supporting me, you know. And that just always reminds me, like, I don't know, not that support should come out of, well, that, I don't know, that whole dynamic was doomed to even feel any kind of support from, other than like just very basic survival support. But I just remember like now in my dynamic with my boyfriend, like I do want to be really supportive of him, because it's like beyond like, ooh, I'm happy, love, love. I'm gonna make everything so grand and lovely. Like, besides all those little things, there's also just this aspect of like disgust at the world, and like, no, I'm not gonna abandon you to the fuckery, disgusting things that can happen when people aren't supported. You know, the abandonment, and like, I'm not gonna play a role in like allowing my loved one to be abandoned by the world, because like I am, like, and it partly like, I don't know, I'm not saying that as like a pressure, because I know that I also am in a different situation with different needs, different capabilities, different desires. He actually does really support me, and so I have this love. Like, maybe with me, with that past boyfriend 10 years ago, maybe I had never been somebody who was able to be supportive to him. And it wasn't any fault of my own, but it was just like he demeaned his own needs. You know, I think he was closeted. He's the person who gave me HIV. I think he was possibly closeted. I don't know if he was bi or just gay. I don't know. But I kind of think that he might have been, it's possible that they're just things innately about me, or like ways that he wasn't able to communicate, you know, he wasn't able to communicate his thoughts and feelings because of his own trauma and lack of like emotional feeling he has the right to explore and to own his thoughts and feelings. Maybe that combined with me just not being innately what he needed, and then feeling like he had to take blame upon himself for things or responsibility or demonize his needs and desires. So I probably didn't even inspire something in him that made him feel nurtured, let him feel nurtured so that he even could be supportive to me, like that, where he even had the energy or the sense of love or motivation to be supportive back. And and for me, at that time I was just like, I felt like because I was sacrificing going through so much pain, I felt like that proves that I am loving him and being kind and helping him to meet his needs, you know? But I think that it was just my emotions trying to tell me, like, no, like, this doesn't feel good. Like, this isn't right. My needs aren't being met. But instead, I took my pain as evidence that I was really helping him, or that I was like making sacrifices that mattered. So everything was also kind of twisted, doomed from the start, messed up. Still trying to figure out in retrospect how I understand that whole relationship. But now, so trust me, like I know like a lot of abuses of power and really painful, unsustainable dynamics can come from trusting any force, whether it's an individual, a job, a system, a philosophy, a religion, whatever. But an organization, did I say that? But I think it's also necessary as we are loving ourselves and figuring out how to advocate for who we actually are and to honor our own needs as disabled people, burnt out people, trying to figure out a different way in the world, trying to figure out I think it's really necessary that we open up that door in our minds, open up that door to be like, well, maybe there's a way to have a really medicinal mutual relationship where, like when I was working for Amazon 2 years ago, like I didn't really let myself think of letting a man take care of me because I only related it to the past horrible experiences I had and to like being out of power, being at the mercy of cruel people. But through my boyfriend, I was able to find somebody who actually, like, he actually wants me to be happy, to feel safe. And I hold that, like, sacred space for him also. Like, we don't use violent communication against each other. We are honest, but we talk about how there are so many different factors that are a part of the creation of this emotion and thought. And it's a part of like a larger conversation, and a lot of which can only be understood as time goes by. And in the meantime, we have to like enjoy being alive as we can now and enjoy doing life together. Like that's when we first met each other on Reddit, by the way. We met on Reddit. We were talking about like we want somebody to enjoy, to do life with, to be like, yeah, like life has so much in it, but we can have the light in our lives be through what we do with somebody else, and like the beautiful things we can enjoy, the beautiful support we can give with one another. And I think when I was younger, I always thought towards people like people are the things that I have to tolerate in order to um, allow myself to, you know, have anything worth having in the world. But through my boyfriend, my thoughts and feelings, I guess a little bit before it, seeing things online, seeing glimpses of what my heart, imagination, imagining all the, like, what would a beautiful relationship, friendship, partnership feel like? And especially through my boyfriend, through the experiences we've had together, I've really opened up to realizing like life is like people aren't something I have to tolerate. Like people can actually be so medicinal and amazing. Uh People like people aren't like there are people who won't harm me, or if they do it's like accidental and I don't harm myself by you know, sometimes people do things on purpose, but I have to have the option to not harm myself by always assuming someone is doing something intentionally to try to harm and hurt me. Like, yes, that was the case in the past. In some dimensions, that is the truth. Um, and it was a major emotional through line when I was younger, but now it's like life with other people. I guess like the past year or two, with all the good experiences I've had with my boyfriend, it's made me feel even more like like I don't want to have friendships and relationships out of survival. I don't want to have it out of I'm forced to tolerate it in order to be a good or normal person. Like my heart wants this like mutually amazing medicinal connections because it can be like so life changing and so like relieving, so beautiful, so what makes life worth living for kind of thing. And so I guess I'm still learning like how to be a safe person for myself, because by being a safe person for myself, I can be a safe person for other people because I can even know my boundaries, I can know my thoughts and feelings to even have me be making interpersonal decisions based on who I actually am instead of, like I can be equipped to make decisions that are actually like it makes the interpersonal dynamics I enter into even be capable of being beneficial to me. And if I'm like I really do believe that if like I'm being hurt, another person is being hurt because they aren't knowing like the reality, or they're having misinformation as to how sustainable, mutually satisfying relationships works. So, um, yeah, basically, I've gotten off topic a lot, but I definitely just wish in general that as disabled, differently abled, burnt out, whatever people, we can people at a great change in our lives, we're at a great turning post, that we can accept help from other people. We can accept a partnership, a friendship, a job, whatever it might be, that it is actually based on us actually being known and seeing how somebody reacts and how if they can be authentically supportive if we're honest, and authentically meaning they're not like compromising themselves. It comes naturally, like it's just mutually beneficial. It feels worth the investment to them. They actually value us. Like it's so necessary, I think, to be more honest instead of trying to present and show ourselves as being a certain kind of way. Like, how can we know for ourselves who we actually are, how we feel, at least in that moment, and to be honest about this so that, I don't know, things are based on reality instead of like a, I know to some degree we always have a superimposed, not quite reality, right? Because there's like reality, which is really hard to actually know because our human minds are so skewed according to just information and perception and how those things can change. So we have like reality, which is kind of like more an idea than anything. And then we have the reality that humans can understand, that we like superimpose whatever on top of it. And we do that through our narratives, like the narratives that we use, the words that we use. And that causes us to interpret and see things. So we can't always have things on the complete reality as like what reality actually is. Like that idea of reality is always changing as we go into the future. We're like, oh, I thought this back then, but now with what I know now, I see now the reality was different back then, you know? But as much as possible, I think it's important to be messy, say our thoughts and feelings of the moment, and see how people react when we are imperfect, when we are just as we are. See which people are the ones who can support us just as we are, and make sure we're always supporting ourselves just as we are. Um, and I think that's, those are some things related to like being able to find ourselves a really supportive, encouraging, safe zone, a safe basis from which we can be protected, be financially cared for while we are undergoing so much change, so much trying to get to know ourselves for the first time maybe in our lives, trying to understand how do we like get energy, get money, get what's it called? What is the ADHD term where it's your self executive functioning? All this is a part of executive functioning because you're not going to feel motivated or have clarity on what to do when you're so weighed down in all the distractions of shame and trauma and self-blame and fear, lack of safety, lack of rest. So, yeah. And it's really weird because I know it can feel like a big pressure, like, okay, the clock's ticking, like, how long is this gonna take? Can I give my loved one a deadline? And unfortunately, like, we only know the parameters after the fact of what we needed because sometimes we can't even know for ourselves, like, what is it we need? We just know we have unidentified needs, unidentified strengths, and it's a huge, really not smooth process of learning because like I know for myself, like we have such little emotionally accessible resources to have access to, or like maybe the exact resources I need are out there somewhere in the world, but to locate it, by resources I mean the experiences, the individuals, the information I need that has me be like, oh, these are my strengths, this is who I am. Like I feel so clear, so motivated, so executively functioned, so like clear in my desire and my strengths and having all the energy to wrap it all up in a bow that can make it so whatever I'm offering can get money in return. I think it's worth getting money in return. like worth being like, hey, I need money for this, you know? Like, all of that is so complicated, so impossibly complicated. And it takes so much energy to try to take risks, to, um, to try to guess, to try new experiences, to try to locate these resources and individuals, which is why the internet is awesome because there's less risk involved. There's less physical energy. There's more you can do with like less time, less resources invested, you know? Um, and anyway, I want this to go on for too much longer just because I'm getting tired. But basically, if no matter if you're a man or a woman, like don't discount being supported by your partner, whether a man or a woman. Like don't discount being supported by your partner, by a partner, finding a partner to support you as a part of your process to getting out of burnout, towards self discovery, towards, radical self acceptance, towards finding an authentic path, towards having a sustainable sense of income or source of income. Don't discount it because I know there's a lot of narratives out in the world that say that, like, in order to respect ourselves or love ourselves or know ourselves, like, we have to be so independent. We have to be so. Independence is an illusion, right? But we have to be so, we have to do it all ourselves and prove, like we're a grown adult and we're, all this stuff. Like, I lived in an apartment by myself for 2 years when I worked for Amazon because I thought so hard that was an experience I needed. And at the time, it was really the only option I had. But I wish I had the option back then to have someone safe to live with, to lessen the pressure off of me and provide me the opportunity to even do this self discovery. And I'm grateful I have it now. I'm really grateful to my boyfriend that I have it now. And I know it's something I want to talk about more in the future. It's like really weird when we have all these contrasting thoughts and feelings that relate to who we think we are in a relationship, a partnership, and trying to take on, trying to separate the external presentation of, like, I'm a woman living with a man, with my boyfriend. Like, those, all the toxic things are related, the stereotypes, and not superimposing it onto myself or my partner. And to be like, just think of it like I'm a human. That is a human. We are humans going through this fucked up world together, partnering for mutual benefits. And just trying to see things in that way, and what does it mean for the other dynamics of our relationship. And the things that we allow ourselves to think and feel and communicate. And yeah, it's interesting. But hope this is helpful in some kind of way. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics. If you have anything to share, as a comment, or if you've maybe written about it somewhere on a blog or Substack, or if you've made like a YouTube video, or you're gonna make a YouTube video. Like, I'd love to know your thoughts on this similar topic, and let me know if you have shared this. Okay. Take care. Bye.